When I was a kid, I lived in a 2-story house. There was a staircase that I will always remember. It was made of wood and was very old. It had been there since we moved in. Under the staircase, there was a space. It wasn't big enough to be a room, but it was sufficient to be used for storage. My parents had repurposed it as a storeroom. The steps of the staircase were hollow, so you could see into the space below. During my secondary school years, I got into gaming, League of Legends to be exact. I would play until midnight. One night, as usual, I was gaming until late, around 3 a.m. I felt hungry and went downstairs to make myself some instant noodles for a late-night snack. After I had made my cup of noodles, I decided to take it upstairs and enjoy it while queuing for my next game. As I stepped onto the staircase, I suddenly felt a distinct wet sensation on my toes. I froze and thought, "What was that?" Before I could process it, the sensation came again. It felt like something was licking my toes. I squinted and peered into the space beneath the stairs. I wish I hadn't looked. The space beneath is dark, but I could make out something lurking underneath. There, I saw a long, pink, pointy tongue retracting from my toes back into the storage area. I caught a glimpse of what the tongue was attached to. A pale creature, vaguely humanoid in shape. It curls its body in a fetal position, both of its short arms hugging its knees. What tells me it's not a normal human are its facial features. It has 2 small marble-sized white eyes, 2 slits for a nose, and a big unhinged jaw from which the tongue protrudes. I shouted, ran upstairs, flipped my cup of noodles all over the stairs, and dashed straight into my parents' room to wake them up. They got up, and I told them I had seen someone hiding under the stairs. They immediately checked the space below and found nothing, except for my spilled cup of noodles. My father confiscated my computer after that, blaming my sleep deprivation for making me see things in the middle of the night. After that incident, I never left my room at night and always kept it locked and avoided the space below the stairs at all cost until we moved out 2 years later. This is the only time I've encountered this strange being. I still never found out what that thing was. Maybe it just wanted a taste of my instant noodles.
One day I had to work overtime. It is already 11 p.m. I had a late dinner with my colleague before driving home. On my way home, I always pass by a playground, but tonight something seemed off. There was a young girl, about 6 years old, in a red dress, standing in the middle of the playground holding a teddy bear. I thought, oh no, what's she doing out here? She might need help. So I pulled over to the roadside, turned off my car, and started walking toward her. After a few steps, I noticed something wasn't right. The girl seemed too calm. She turned to look at me with a blank expression, hugging her teddy bear to her chest. Then I heard noises from the bushes to her left. There was movement in the foliage. A bad feeling hit me, and my survival instincts kicked in. I rushed back to my car, slammed the door shut, and hit the gas pedal. As I sped away from the playground, I saw 2 grown men holding what appeared to be a baseball bat. They both are wearing black masks, standing next to the girl and facing in my direction. I couldn't help but think they were using the girl as bait to lure unsuspecting people into danger. If I hadn't noticed the movement in the bushes, who knows what could have happened to me? I was lucky, and I'll never be so eager to help without carefully assessing my surroundings again. I soon found out that there were cases where people used others' kindness as a tool for robbing them. I found out from my friend that just a week ago, there was a similar case currently under investigation. Although a slightly different technique was used to lure the victim, a man is beaten up and robbed of his possessions and his car after stopping to help a girl with a flat tire by the roadside at midnight. As soon as the man came alone to help, two big men jumped out from their hiding place and cornered the victim, using the girl and his own kindness as bait. What I learned from this is that kindness is not always repaid. Please be careful when you decide to help and be aware of your surroundings.
This happened when I was still in secondary school. I was at my grandmother's home in Malaysia, Pulau Ketam, a village built on stilts over the sea. It was Chinese New Year, and we were there for a family reunion. As the adults were chatting in the local dialect, my sister and I got very bored because we didn't understand much of it. The same was true for one of our older cousins. We decided to go for a walk around the village. We told our parents and agreed to return before 7:30 p.m. After some walking around the village market, we ran out of pocket money and were bored again. It was 6 p.m. and the sun was starting to set, casting a dusky glow. So we thought we'd do some thrill-seeking. We remembered an old abandoned street at the edge of the village with 2 rows of uninhabited houses. The houses were old and run down, as many of the people who used to live there had moved on to bigger cities and never returned. We thought about going into the houses, but our older cousin stopped us. As it might be dangerous, since the houses have been unoccupied for a long time, there might be some animals inside, such as stray dogs, snakes, or spiders, or there might be broken glass or shattered sharp items that could cause accidents and injuries. We thought he had a point, so we agreed. We ended up just wandering around the old houses' porches, checking out anything cool we could find. Most of the houses were made entirely of wood, so our footsteps made this satisfying crackling sound with every step we took. We peeked through the windows. It was eerie, but interesting to see the old furniture and items that had been left behind, now covered in decades of dust. We noticed a lot of items left behind. Even some empty storerooms still held everyday items like baskets and fishing nets. Soon enough, it was 7 p.m. The sun was setting, and the tide was rising. It was getting darker, so we decided to head back to avoid getting scolded by our parents. Just as we were about to leave the place, my cousin stepped outside, turned his head to the right, and stared at a hut far down the road. I walked out of the front yard and looked in the same direction, while my sister stayed behind in the front yard. I have mild short-sightedness, so I could see the hut, but I couldn't make out what was inside. I squinted my eyes, but I still couldn't make out what was in the hut. I saw a small white object bobbing up and down, seemingly on a table. Suddenly my cousin yelled, "Run!" and took off in the opposite direction. I had never seen him run so fast. He was in a full-blown panic, striding so hard that I thought he might break the wooden floor. As we watched him sprint away, his urgency contagious, we found ourselves compelled to follow suit, despite not knowing what he was fleeing from. As we sprinted after him, we shouted and asked him, "What is it? What is it?" But he didn't answer. My sister, who was running ahead of me, looked back and screamed in terror. This only heightened my fear and confusion. After about 5 minutes of sprinting, we finally reached the main road, where there were vendors and people. We'd never run that fast and for so long before. By the time we stopped, we were soaked in sweat, panting like crazy. Both my sister and cousin were so shaken that they were silent all the way back to our relative's house, leaving me with a sense of unease from their reaction and feeling thoroughly bewildered. I didn't dare ask any questions. I was just catching my breath. After dinner and cleaning up, we were upstairs playing PlayStation while the adults continued chatting downstairs. I finally had the chance to ask, "Hey, what did you guys see? What happened back there?" My cousin turned to me and said, "It was a head, a floating head with white hair, like an old man's." At first, I thought it was a cat, so I didn't run immediately. From where we stood, his long white hair kinda looked like a fluffy cat chilling out on the table under the hut. Out to the blue, the head spotted us and swiveled our way. It jumped off the table, landed on the bench, and came zooming toward us like nobody's business. That's when I realized it wasn't a cat, it's a floating head. My sister confirmed what my cousin said. She told us that when she looked back while sprinting, she got a good look at the head. It had no eyeballs, no teeth, just a creepy grin plastered on its face as it closed in on us. The room fell silent after that. We realized we had been chased by something supernatural. Luckily, no one was hurt, and nothing bad happened afterward. To this day, I still think I'm lucky I didn't get a good look at the thing that chased us.